All right. Hello and welcome to the first month of the Dear Jane Goes Pink Sew Along. So, we are going to be talking about all of the blocks. So there's 13 for this month and for all the months. But this is our quilt here that we are going to be working on. This is the white version. I know there are definitely plenty of you signed up for the black version. When you should get an email, or should have already gotten an email about your username and password, so that you can print off all of your patterns. You'll notice that each one of your patterns will have a title, and it will say EPP or FPP. If you want to do foundation paper piecing, you will print out your paper and you will want to click the FPP. If you wanted to do EPP, you can click on the EPP, so English paper piecing. So all of these pieces are hand sewn and applique to your background block. And this is just the way that I did it. So I EPP'd the block. You can see how they were folded around the paper templates. You have to cut out the number that you need for each one. And then I appliqued them down, and then I cut a little bit of the background and I pulled the paper out. So this is how I did the EPP version. There is also the foundation paper piecing version. So if you wanted to do either one, they're both on there. You can choose which way you want to do it. Definitely use, if you're using foundation paper piecing, you can use copy paper like me, or you can use the newsprint, which is, it falls off like butter. It is definitely a little bit easier when it comes to removing your papers. Sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to get into the very first block. So this is A1. It is super, super cute. And now I have chosen to use some of my Tula stash that I have that is not going to be included in your kits. So I did want to make sure that everybody knows that I have, Tula fabric from years ago that I'm never going to use, and I only have teeny tiny pieces, and this is like the perfect project to use up some of that hoarded Tula fabric that you have. So let's just go over what comes in your kit. So if you have black background, you'll get this gorgeous black, and then you will get this fabric to make all of your blocks. So this is what was going to be coming in your kit. This is it's like 4 times as much fabric as you need, which really isn't, it doesn't look like a lot of fabric, but it's absolutely enough. So this is how much fabric you need, and this is how much fabric you get. So there's quite a bit there. So don't worry about, if you make a mistake, you're gonna have plenty of fabric. Don't worry about that. But you can also use, hoarded scraps. You don't have to do these the exact way that I have. You can definitely play around. It's meant to be, make it yours. So if you can notice, the first row that goes across, there's 2 blocks made from each color. So you'll have 12 fabrics in your kit, and you'll make 2 pink blocks, 2 red blocks, 2 yellow blocks, and so on. But there's only 1 aqua. So the aqua is the center, and there's only 1 of those. But you will get 2 pink fabrics, and you can make your pink fabric. So I made this one for this one, and then I chose the solid for this one. But I do recommend not doing that, because when I assemble my row, I didn't look at this, and both of my solid blocks will be right next to each other. So if you don't mind that they're right next to each other, go ahead, use them for that. But if you want to switch it up so that 2 solids aren't right next to each other in the row, I do recommend maybe switching that, because I might just change my layout. So this is where is on this side. So this is that red block, this is my pink block, and they end up being right next to each other. So I might just move my red block over here and this red block over there, just so that I don't have both solids right next to each other. So that, that was, you live and you learn. That's the way it is. It's gonna be fine. I don't mind. Okay, so I am doing foundation paper piecing because it is it's obviously faster than English paper piecing. So I'm doing FPP, but you can do it, whichever way that you want. I do recommend pressing your seams open when it comes to joining sections. So that will definitely help reduce some of your bulk. That is how I did this one. So this one is, cute, all these little triangles in there. Let's see, oops, sorry. Then we have the yellow one. So in my example, I have two of my yellow ones are actually the same fabric, but you don't have to do that. You can choose to do the two yellow fabrics that we have included. One, obviously, with these really pretty rainbows. And then the other yellow fabric is just this top half of this fabric. So this half will be the aqua, will be for your center block, which looks like this. So this will be your aqua block. And then that you will just use half of this fabric for that, and then the other half will be for your yellow. And you can choose to use it for this block, or you can choose to use it for this block. Either one is totally fine. Okay, so that's the yellow fabric. All right, what else? The blue fabric, I'm going to talk about this one. I chose to fussy cut my corners here and my center block so that it was a little bit more, I don't know, it's a little cuter, but it does take more time. I highly recommend a light box if you are going to be fussy cutting paper piecing. That way you place your fabric down on your light box and you can see the lines of where it needs to go, and you can really easily position your fabric so that you get the motif that you want for each one. So you lucky people do get some out of print fabric that will be included in your kit. This is out of print. And then also this homemade fabric is also out of print. And we have these for blues. So that is that. Let's see, what else do we need to talk about? So we did the pinks. Oh, for the reds, we do have that red solid that I showed earlier that I used for this block. But we also have a piece of the red queen. Okay, so you may or may not get a cameo in there, but the whole point was to get just so that it's the hearts. So I was able to fussy cut most of it. I have a little bit of the swirly bits in the corner here, and then also a little bit up here on the top. But it's not. I love it. I think it's really awesome. I love this background. It's a great way to use up those hearts that are in between the cameos. So you will get a generous piece of this, and all you have to do is cut these. I mean, these are itty bitty. I mean, they're size of like your fingernail. So they're really, really small. You should have enough red to complete those. Okay, so we did red, pink, and then we also did orange. These are from True Colors, so you'll have a little bit of mineral and also your peach blossom and wildflower. Those ones I did, which I think I held this one up already. And then also the other orange one. I did originally use this mineral instead of this mineral, but when I took a look at it, this actually reads as yellow and it doesn't read as orange. So I have changed that so that you guys can have it so that it looks a little bit more accurate to the color that we intended. So when we want to see this color progression go all the way across the quilt, this orange didn't cut it. So we changed it to this so that is more obviously orange. Red, orange, yellow. Okay, and now to purple. So we have this really beautiful Curiouser print. Here's Alice in the Sea of Tears. It's a really, really pretty purple. You can do and then also iris dots or pom-poms. And that one I have just partially done here so that I can sew with you guys a little bit. So I was able to fussy cut most of it. You can see a little bit of the aqua poking out through there. But you don't need to necessarily, I mean, if you want the aqua in there, you can definitely add that. I chose to just have, for the most part, not have it show up. But that is how you can fussy cut this and go in between the dots. And I can show you my last couple pieces. I thought it would be fun to sew together and to just go over paper piecing trimming. So I have this piece right here, and then this is the back side. So you can see this is shaded here, and then this is the colored piece in the center. So I always like to cut my pieces more generously than the actual paper, and then I trim them up. So the first 20 people who signed up do get this really beautiful Dear Jane Ghost Pink, hot pink template. So these are the exact size that your blocks need to be. So every time when you need to square them up, you can just lay your block on there and trim away on your sides. So we also do have these available for purchase. If you weren't one of the ones that got one for free, you can definitely still purchase these to help with squaring up all your blocks. It does have a 1/4 inch seam allowance all around the edge so that you can really easily just square it up, and then you can also see whether or not you're going to save your points when you go to trim it. So that is definitely a very helpful line on there. But we will have these available on our website. It's going to be on our Etsy page, heartlandquiltshop.com. All of our classes, these videos, the patterns, everything is on Heartland Sewing Studio. If you have more questions about that, make sure you can always email or text us or call. We are generally open 7 days a week, so you can give us a call if you have any questions. Okay, just for real quick, we're going to go over I'm going to trim up some of these blocks right here when I go to piecing them to the side. So I'll show you how I do that. There are definitely plenty of tutorials and videos out there on paper piecing so that you can learn more tips and tricks. But just for now, I'm going to trim this down. I'm going to move the camera. Let's see if you can see where I'm working. Probably not. I'm going to rotate the camera. Okay. I don't think that's going to work either because there's just this giant pile. Oh, one more time. Okay. I've done this before, I promise. Okay. All right. So here's my block. I'm going to take my handy dandy template and I'm going to trim off one side here. So these templates do not have grips on this on the back sides. I'd recommend True Grips, or which are just adhesive grips that you can put on the back side. You can also get a non-slip spray or like sandpaper dots. Those help a lot when you are just trying to get it to stay and not move. So whenever I trim my blocks, I always want to make sure that like here is your seam allowance line. So here's your seam allowance line. You always want to stitch into your seam allowance. Whenever you're doing paper piecing, make sure you stitch that entire seam allowance line. And then also whenever you're stitching, you want to go all the way across, like before the line, all the way across past the line. So that way you will get really nice sharp points. So if you can see this nice and clearly, every time I sewed across here, I went past this actual stitched line. So this one is here's a really simple one that's also easy to see, that I stitched the entire seam allowance all the way across. So you start before the line, stitch all the way the whole line, and then past the line. That way you can guarantee you get really nice sharp points, and you're not missing any of them in your triangles. So anyway, when I go to trim this block, I'm going to put my 1/4 inch line on this right above it so that my seam allowance is slightly larger, because when I go to join the pieces and one is folded over, so when it's like if they're folded open, they're able to stay pretty flat, but sometimes you lose a little bit of your fabric when you join them and it's folded over. So when I go to do that, I will always make my seam allowance just a tad bit bigger. So add 1/4 rulers are also really great for paper piecing. But now I've trimmed that and I've left just a teeny tiny little bit of extra space. And then I have my finished side piece right here. And I'm going to trim that so that I can join that to my block here. So this is what it's going to look like there. And I'm going to trim this one. And then I'm going to stitch that right across. Oops, I turned it upside down again. Okay. Okay, so now I have my block, and I'm going to join it like, oops, which side? This is the side I trimmed. So I'm going to join this block here together. So whenever I do that, I will always, what I really like to do is I like to stick a pin directly through the point right here so that I can see that it's going to line up directly with this point right here. So I just take a regular, and I don't have one on me. I don't have a pin right now. But I just take a regular sewing pin and I push it directly through so that I can see where it's going to line up. And then I use my Wonder Clips and I clip it straight down, and then I pin it, poke a hole, pin it straight through, make sure that my block is not being twisted, like this one's not moving up or down at all, and I can make sure that when I push the pin through, it's going to line up directly on that line. I hold it in place with Wonder Clips, and then I take it over to my sewing machine, and then I stitch it. And I take out the clips one by one as I go. Another word about stitching on paper piecing is that you want to make sure that your stitch length is a lot smaller than normal. So you can see that I like to stitch with 1.5. I definitely know there are other people who like to stitch with a lot smaller than that, so the paper just falls right off. I do 1.5 because sometimes I make mistakes and then I need to use the paper again. But again, it's a very personal thing, and there's so many different ways of paper piecing. Just one more time, we'll go over all the blocks and we'll identify them so that you know there are some that are applique, and those ones are not available as FPP or EPP. They're only applique, and it will say APP on the website. So there are 1, 2, 3 applique blocks. And also I have stay stitched around the entire perimeter of all my blocks just to make sure that it wasn't, I don't know if it was cut on the bias. I kind of just, cut it, and I might not have been paying attention to which way the bias was. And you want to make sure that you are able to to make sure that fabric doesn't stretch. So I've just done a really, really simple stitch with a long stitch length around the entire perimeter of all my blocks to make sure that they will not stretch at all. Especially with paper piecing, you just kind of cut everything, as you can cut it all before you get started, or you can just cut, I have this little piece hanging right here, I'm just going to use this piece and put it in my block. So this, doing that, make sure that your blocks stay really nice and square, and there's no frustrating stretching out. So I have stitched all around all my blocks. So let's see, this is one. So you have the purple from Cuirasseur instead of this one. This one I pulled from Chipper that I've had for a while, and I don't know why I love it so much, but I do. But also it's kind of more aqua than it is purple. But oh well, that's the way it is. Okay, we talked about our applique blocks. So I did mine with a glitter dark decorative stitch, and I did the blanket stitch instead of a straight stitch. But you can do any way that you want it to do. So this is the first one, and then here's my 1 EPP block. Now I don't know what to do that with because I have 2 of them. I have 2 of them in white, and I have them in black as well. Okay, I think that's it. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to give us a call. We are more than happy to answer them. If you need more detailed instructions on how to paper piece, let us know, and we will send you some links to some really good tutorials. I guess that's it for now. I hope you guys all have a great time sewing these blocks. They're super, super fun. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next month.